Hey College Success, this is your lecture video for Chapter 4. So Chapter 4, if we click in, I'm going to use the slides as well as the text itself, and then I'm going to go to a couple different resources. But the chapter is all about planning academic pathways, which hopefully, you should already have an idea. I know, again, some of you are CCP, so you're just kind of playing around with that, but a lot of you might already have your academic plan in mind, but this is going to talk about all those different components that we need to think about. So this is the objectives, thinking about values and goal setting, your degree path, that plan, and then what happens when things change. So here, as always, are just these beginning of the chapter check-in type questions. Have you reflected on your personal goals? Values. Have you made short and long-term goals? Do you know what you need to do to get your degree? And then do you know all the resources that can help you reach those goals and get that degree? So the first thing the chapter starts talking about is kind of these values and how your values should play and be really closely linked to your goals and the career path that you're going into. And so we're going to talk about that first, like these values and then eventually goal setting. So what beliefs or values do you have that go into the goals that you have for yourself? And then are you setting manageable goals based on that? Like always, we have kind of these quotes that tie into this discussion for the chapter. One of the leading things that talks about career satisfaction is that our values line up with our career, which makes sense if you think about it. If you are and I know I believe I've talked about this before, but if you are a very people-oriented person and you like to be around people, you get your energy in situations in which you are collaborating or working with other people, but then you choose a career path where there's a lot of isolation, there's not a lot of maybe teamwork or interaction with other people, there may not be a lot of job satisfaction there, versus if you choose a path such as like in the healthcare field or the human and social services or education where you're interacting with people, that job satisfaction will more than likely be higher. So you need to know what your values are. How do you view? And when you go and you watch your assignment video, you're going to see that there is a values assignment. So it's going to kind of make you think about what your values are and then how those line up to your particular field. So also thinking about goal planning. So you want to have long-term, short-term, mid-term goals and how those all work together. So what I like to do is I always start kind of at the end, what is my 5-year goal? And then I kind of work my way back from there. So I know that if my end goal is, to get a degree, for instance, if I wanted to get my bachelor's degree, then I know that 2 years from then, I need to be at a certain point in my degree. 2 years before that, I need to be, in my program. So you really need to build your goals toward your end goal. And so short-term and midterm goals will help you do that. And so it's kind of always checking in as well. Are you meeting your short-term goals? Are they aligned with how you're spending your time? I often have students who say, they want to graduate in 2 years, which a 2-year degree is kind of a misnomer. It's usually about 3.5 years it takes people to graduate. But then they spend their time playing video games or watching a lot of TV. And it's not to say those things aren't important, because you do need downtime, absolutely. But if you're spending an obscene amount of time doing those things and your goal is to graduate in 2 years, you're probably not dedicating a lot of time to your actual studies or making sure that you're invested in different things that are going to help you get to that 2-year degree in the 2-year time span. So you really just need to make sure that you're paying attention to that. But you also need to allow yourself just adjustment time. Sometimes things happen that are not planned. COVID was a great example. That really interrupted a lot of people's plans for their degree. It either pushed them back a semester or sometimes it made them change their degree altogether. And so it's okay to adjust. I always tell students, if you have a GPA goal, let's say you want a 3.6, and so you put into action all the things you're going to do to get your 3.6. You're going to go to class every day, you're going to turn in your homework, you're going to use tutoring, you're going to ask for help and study for tests and all of those things, but you have one class that's just stumping you. It's maybe not in your major, but it's a required course, maybe psychology or, cultural diversity, whatever it is, whatever it's challenging you. And you're gonna be like, you know what, I'm gonna give myself some grace. I'm gonna go for a 3.4 GPA, and that's okay. You adjust for those things. It's totally fine to adjust your goals. All right, so thinking of that, so thinking of your values and your goals, you also need to make sure that you're planning your degree path. And so obviously, depending on where you are, again, if you're CCP, if you're fresh out of high school, knowing what type of degrees there are. Some of you have already made that decision. Sometimes we have students who have multiple majors and they get multiple degrees. We just had in a recent graduation ceremony, a student had 4 degrees, walk across the stage getting 4 degrees. And then sometimes students do minors. And every once in a while, we have students who have different programs where they're majoring in health and they also major in business. And so just knowing how the different programs differ from one another, if that's something that you're looking into, and then all the other types of requirements, like is there an application process? Is there a GPA requirement? All of those things are things we want to think about. And so there are different types of degrees. 2-year degree, your associate degree, a bachelor's, graduate, and then other post-grad degrees. So that could be like your law degree, your PhD, your MD, those kind of things, like after a graduate degree. Some of you may only need an associate's degree and you're like, I'm good there. Some of you might have to, based on what field you're going in, have to get a bachelor's degree, or some of you might want to get a bachelor's degree. So it's important to know what kind of degrees you need to have as well. And so these are just some examples of like what fields require what kind of degrees. So that's really important. And this shows some information about like different, I'm going to show you the resources here. And I know I've shown these before in different videos, so I apologize, but I really want to make sure that you get all the information you can. So you really want to make sure that you are taking the time to look through all these different requirements. So one of the things, and this is actually going to be an assignment soon enough, I'm just going to show you down here. I know I've talked about career services already, but I'm going to always encourage you to go ahead and check out our career services page, because they really are the experts on helping you get career ready and making sure that your resume, your interview practice, all of that is ready to go. So they're a great resource, but I'm going to talk specifically about their career coach, and it's also located down here. This is where, let's say you really don't know what you want to do. So you can go to the assessment, and again, this will be a requirement. So if you wanted to get a jump on it, you could. You could create an account and log in, but you can take an assessment that is going to tell you about your type of personality, which goes into your values, and what careers are great matches. So that is an assessment that you can take now if you feel like, I'm not really 100% decided what I want to do, or you can just kind of start searching. And I'm going to go ahead and search. I know that I use physical therapy a lot in my other videos. I'm just going to do something a little different. I'm going to do a preschool teacher. And so I'm just going to kind of look here and see if there's anything that kind of sticks out to me. It looks like there's a lot of different teaching assistants. So I'm just going to click on the very first one here. And you can see here that it's going to just give me this like overview, the programs that are connected to it here at the college. If I also wanted to find out more information, I could go to the bls.gov and I can type in here preschool teacher, and here we go. Go here and it's going to give me a lot of similar information. I honestly think Career Coach is the most user-friendly. I really like Career Coach, but BLS is also very nice. It has things nice and snapshotted here in the different categories. Another place you can go is ONET Online. I will say this one has a ton of information, but it's almost a little overwhelming. I will say that, because you can look at all this. It's a lot of detail, which is great, but like I said, it can be overwhelming. So depending on where you are with your career path, if you're early on, I would suggest like Career Coach or the BLS. If you know a lot about your field already, ONET is a great place to go and look for more detail there. So it's really important to kind of just know this information, right? Know the kind of education you're going to need to get. Some people start their associate's degrees and then they find out, oh, the field they're in actually also needs a bachelor's degree. And so just knowing that really early on is so key to making sure you have this plan out. So you want to make sure you know the courses in your degree program, which is another thing I'll just remind you, because this is shown in other videos as well, where to go. Underneath, oh, there we go. Okay. Underneath starkstate.edu, and go to academics. And then here's all these career communities here. So I'm going to stick with preschool. I'm going to go to education. and I can look at all the information here on this website, some basic careers inside education, and then let's say I want to go early childhood education. I'm going to click on courses, and then there's my degree plan. So I know exactly, you know, what type of courses I'm going to need to take inside this particular field. Sorry, I've got too many things opened up. I know how many credits. I know at the bottom, you know, there's certain grade requirements. There's certain maybe pre-co-rec type information. So that's really helpful to know as well. Okay. So other things you need to think about, again, is your major. Often that's the biggest question people ask, like, what's your major? We do have a lot of students who change majors, sometimes 3-4 times, and that's okay because it's all about figuring out what's a good fit for you. So other things to consider, you do need to know, are there things outside of your courses that you have to take? If you're in a program that has clinicals, like a health program, you need to know about that. Sometimes you have certain hours you have to complete. You know, obviously in education, you have like student teaching. Sometimes you'll have internships. That's also a great time to go ahead and look again back at career services, because they do have links to internships and information where you could see, is there anything out there, even if it's part-time work, start getting your toe in the water, so to speak. So just knowing all about these requirements. All right, and then part of that also goes into making a plan and just knowing, what do I have to do? You know, here I am in maybe my first semester or CCP. What kind of things do I have to do? And so knowing who your advisor is a great first stop. You know, on my Stark State, scrolling down under academic profile, you're going to have your advisor listed there. Obviously I don't, since I'm not a student, but you should see that that's a great first kind of contact person. So making sure that you know the resources. Who else can you go to? Well, as I mentioned, career services. There are also lots of different resources on campus. If I go under Info 4, and I know I've shown this to you before, but current students, career services, the digital library can definitely help with different research components. Trio is a place for first generation college students. If you are just kind of struggling with making sure that you're being the best student you can be, that you are in the right career field for yourself, they're another place to go. There's counseling services, so lots of resources. So when it says like what tools are available, who can assist me, I would definitely, when it talks about career plan, career services is the go-to. You also need to know those curriculum maps, which is what I brought up for you already, knowing how many classes you have to take, how many credits. And this is why it's so important to check in with your advisor. Some people like to self-advise after they've been here for a semester or two, which is okay. But there are certain classes that are only offered like once every year. And so your advisors are going to know that. So if you want to graduate at a certain time, you're going to have to know when those classes are being offered. So again, checking in with your advisor, even if you don't meet with them every semester, just send a quick email and say, hey, this is what I'm planning on taking. Does this look okay to you? And they do a lot of things. A lot of people think I just go to my advisor for scheduling, but they also can help you make sure that your degree plan is on track, making sure that you've done that evaluation, that your degree is ready to be received before graduation. They can help you with transfer. They can help you network or get connections inside the field that you're going into. So there's a lot of different ways and reasons to go to your advisor. All right, so another thing is like making sure that you're checking up with your, they call it degree auditing. That would be, for us, going down here, your map. And again, this is something that you will or have seen already, and using your map to kind of track your progress and make sure that you're on the right page when it comes to your degree plan. And then also coming up with some plans for after graduation. What are you going to do after graduation? And again, we'll refer you back to career services. You know, they can help alumni too. So even after you graduate, career services can be the office that's going to help you put your job feelers out, help you get your resume ready, all of those different things. All right, now what happens if things don't go as planned? And again, that's totally fine. I know when I was going through my, all of my degrees actually, I came up with a plan of when I thought I would graduate. For my PhD, I was way too optimistic, thinking, I'm going to get it done in 5 years. You know, a PhD is a second job essentially, because you are going to school and you're researching and writing, and you're reading for 20, 30 hours a week sometimes. So when 5 years was approaching, I was like, I'm not anywhere close. And that was okay because I was still on track, but I was just moving at a pace that was more comfortable and that made better sense than what I originally thought. So it's fine. You know, you talk to your advisor, you talk to your instructors, you talk to a trusted support person in your family or friend circle. Like, okay, what do I do from here? How do I make these adjustments? And you go ahead and you just come up with that new plan. It's always fine to make those adjustments and go from there. And part of that is asking for help. Some students are very shy when it comes to asking for help, but that is what these resources on the college campus are for. They are all here to help you get to that end goal, whether it's transfer, graduation, a job, wanting to make sure that you get there. Right? So sometimes you have to kind of just think about what is in your control, what is out of your control. Are there any new tools or avenues that I need to explore or look into so that you are making the best changes possible? And then it starts wrapping up talking about mentors. Mentors are those people who can give you that advice. And that could be your advisor. It could be maybe your first employer. It could be a teacher you have at the college. So anyone that's kind of has a little bit more experience. And that doesn't necessarily mean years wise in terms of their age. Maybe you're actually older than your mentor, but they've been in your field longer. So it's just someone who has that experience piece that can help you kind of figure things out along the way. All right, so that is the chapter. I really, as always, encourage you to take a look inside the actual textbook itself to see if there's anything that you're like, yeah, I need a little bit more help. I get anxious when it comes to change. That's how I am. So maybe just really thinking about how can I manage change and things that aren't really going as planned. All right, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and then make sure you check out the assignment video for this week.